There's a choice that every single creator makes. And this is what separates 95% of creators or wannabe creators from actual creators. I feel like I've been waiting to make a video like this because it's super needed now with everything going on. And, it's still something I see people struggle with, no matter how much it's represented, which is the idea of perfection. If you've been scrolling on the productivity section of the internet, you'd know about perfection isn't real. Perfection is not something you should follow. But I think one thing that people fail to notice about it is perfection is literally ignorance. It's literally based on ignorance. Perfection is not something logical. It is literally a sense of comfort that you have when you don't know enough about something. And then an example of this is, when I was in third grade, I first wanted to create video games. That was my thing I wanted to do before rapping. I didn't even know or think that I even do something with rapping. I wanted to make video games. And before I made my first video game, I was in a video game academy, and they said, "Oh, by the end of this academy, you're going to make a video game." And when they said that, I was thinking of something through the likes of Activision or a big video game company like Skylanders. I'm like, oh, by the end of this academy, even though I have zero experience in this field, I'm going to make something like that. And the end of the academy happened, and I made something that was nothing like any of those games, nowhere near as good as any of those games. And I was disappointed. But there was two choices I could have made in that incident. I either could have stayed in this idea of what could be, in this perfect, comfortable idea, or realize all the nuances that come with that perfection. And even if you achieve something like that, even knowing my game, I could show this video game I made that was nowhere near the complexity of any of these big companies. I could show this game to someone who's never made video games before, and they'd be like, oh, this is cool, or though this is really effective in this way. But they wouldn't know about all the bugs. They wouldn't know about all the problems or issues that this game comes with. But little do they know, I know about all those issues because I created the game. And me looking at that video game that I created at the end of that academy, I don't have an idea of perfection at all because I know all the issues going on with that video game. So again, showing it to somebody else who doesn't have any experience with video game design they'd probably think there's nothing wrong with it, but I know that there's things wrong with it, and I can't view it as perfect because I'm knowledgeable now, and I'm more knowledgeable than I was before. So that perfection came from me not knowing enough about a field and making assumptions, being in this life of comfort. But then I took a step into reality that got me farther to my goals than comfort ever could, and I did not reach the goal. I did not feel like my product was perfect, but I actually had a real product, unlike having something in my head that's perfect but doesn't actually exist. That perfection, that idea of perfection, only happened when I didn't know enough about a field. So this applies the same thing to my music. Everything that I've created, it's extremely hard for me to know it's perfect because I know everything that goes into it. But if I look at someone else's product, if I look at any of these industry songs, these songs that are out there that are super successful, I could be like, oh, that's perfect. That's a perfect song. There's nothing wrong with it. But if I actually was the one creating the song and knew all the variables of what came into making that song what it was, then I'd probably be able to know a little thing that was too wrong, like, oh, this mix was clipping, oh, this little part was messed up, but I wouldn't be able to notice it because I wasn't a part of the process. So that idea of adding more information into a situation takes away perfection automatically. And I think the reason why a lot of artists, a lot of creators nowadays are stuck with this perfection mindset is because they're trying to achieve perfection, but perfection comes with ignorance. So the only way to achieve perfection is to continue to be ignorant. The more you actually take steps to achieve the goal that feels perfect and comfortable in your head, the more problems you actually realize and more variables you realize that come into making that goal. And then you actually take a step into making that goal, and you actually make your goal more of a reality than it was before. However, your knowledge base makes it known that whatever you thought was perfect is not actually perfect. And you can even look at things you've considered perfect before. Like I've looked at songs and I've looked at creations that I've considered perfect before, and I listen to them again, not even my own creations, just people's creations. And I listen like, wow, I can spot X, Y, and Z flaws in this creation, flaws in the song, flaws in this YouTube video. But I wasn't able to spot them before because I was ignorant. Whenever you have that idea of perfection, it's just because you don't know enough about an area, and it's a paradox of achieving it. You can't achieve perfection because in order to even achieve something close to that perfection, you have to know more. And the more you know, the more that perfection facade goes away. There's two choices you can make. There's a choice I made when I entered that Game Design Academy. There's a choice I made when I released my first song. There's a choice that every single creator makes. And this is what separates 95% of creators or wannabe creators from actual creators. You have an idea in your mind. You have an idea in your mind that you know so little about that it seems comfortable. It seems just so far away that it seems comfortable. You have no idea how you're going to achieve it. You have two options in this situation. You either keep that idea in your mind as this perfect, comfortable idea that is going to change the world. It's so cool. Or you try to achieve it. And if you try to achieve it, you're not going to end up at first with something nearly as close to what you wanted. But there's a difference between both options. And my nose is being weird, so give me a sec. One of the options is real, and the second option is not. So you've achieved a real outcome, a real tangible outcome that you can address and account to things, or you achieve or no real outcome and stay in this wonderland of a better outcome, but it doesn't actually exist. So do you want a real outcome, or do you want to stay in fantasy world for what things could be? Because if you want a real outcome, you're going to have to get knowledgeable. You're going to have to take steps, and that requires, and that will automatically take that perfection away. So it's a choice. You want to look buff in the gym? That's a perfect fantasy. Or you could go to the gym and not look exactly with the Spartan body image that you always wanted, but you look better than you did before. You're actually looking different than where you did before, instead of just imagining the perfect situation. Do you want to start dating, imagining the perfect person for you and just sitting in your room doing nothing about it? Or you could actually go into reality, start dating, and realize you're not maybe going to land on the perfect person for you immediately. You're definitely not going to, but you're landing on a real person. You're actually in reality. So the intersection of where your imagination and your reality is creates, I think, an actual circumstance to get you started. And that may not be the final circumstance. That game that I created was the first game I created. It wasn't the final great game I created. I created more games after that were closer to what I wanted. But what I realized is when you start, your expectations are up here and your skill is down here. The more you go, your skill goes up here and your expectations go down here until they meet. And when they meet, that is the golden period of you knowing exactly what you want, being just imaginative enough and self-aware enough to create what you want to do and actually achieve the goals to where your reality is a form of perfection.